Hello everybody, this is Reggie time with the latest episode in my Understanding Microstakes series. And today our session is coming on Unibet and trying to take this series around the different sites so we can get a feel for how different sites play differently at similar limits. I could have played 5-0, I guess, with it being a Nanostakes series. But there's not too many people playing 5-0. I said 10-0 is an entry point for most of the type of players that I have my videos at, so I'm fine making it 10-0. So straight away here, before we carry on with the introduction, we have a player. I have no idea about this guy. His min raise, so I'm just going to call with the ace-10 for now until I get a better feel for him. When we're playing a table without HUDs, and also on a site where people can change their screen names, their online identity on a daily basis, it's going to be hard to ever really pick up reads on people. It's not going to be too hard if we play it for like an hour or 2 hours and we play with the same players. But very early in the session, I don't think there's any reason to go and start jacking pots up 3-betting hands like ace-10 suited, because what do we really try to achieve by doing that? Now it's gone check, check, check on the king high board. I'm going to just bet my 10 for some value. It's going to be hard to get called by worse, but I think people definitely can call with worse in these games, so I think we need to start getting some value there. We need to protect our hand from the flush draw that's come around. I think betting's absolutely fine. On table 1 here, again, no reads on anybody apart from this John Maniac. Appears to be playing every single hand. So my decision here is, do I call and let John Maniac in the pot, or do I 3-bet for value now? And I'm going to 3-bet because I think jacks are just a little bit too vulnerable. If I had kings or aces there, I would have called all day just to bring John into the pot, but jacks are way too vulnerable to overcards. And now I'm going to try and rep ace king by checking and hope that FCST can just bet any pair. And he had queen, so he did bet any pair. Unfortunately, he had the cure for my jacks, which isn't an issue. I'm happy with how I played the hand there. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty confident that he would have done the same there with 2 10s, 2 9s, etc. And of course, we get value from those hands when we bet. But I think when we check there against somebody who doesn't have a lot of money behind, we give them a chance to bluff. And we don't really risk losing value because we can get all the value we need over just 2 streets versus somebody who's only got around 40 blinds left. I mean, I'm pretty surprised it didn't just jam queens before the flop, but there we go. It's not the end of the world. When something like that happens, we can't allow it to affect us in any way. It's not going to happen all the time. That'd be a gross overstatement. But it happens a lot. You know, if we grind a decent number of hands, running big pair into bigger pair is something that's going to happen to you a decent amount of the time, and it's just something you've got to get on with. It's just part of the grind. Let's see bet here. If I had a slightly better race, I might not bet here. But I think we can get people off. Sometimes maybe like pocket 3s and things like that. Pocket 3s through pocket 7s maybe. When I get check min race, I've got the easiest fold of all time. Just going to reload my stack. There's one of the bugbears about Unibet. It doesn't have an auto reload facility. I'm going to fold the 6-3 suited there. It's tempting to call because it's such heavy multi-way action, but I don't think it's profitable, even though it's really tempting and you're thinking, well, if I hit my straight or I hit my flush, I might win a big pot. It doesn't happen often enough, and some of the times you're going to have a flush and have a dominated flush and cost you money, a bad reverse implied odds spot. And for those who don't understand what reverse implied odds means, reverse implied odds is just when we stand to make a good hand that is still behind somebody else, so therefore we end up losing a lot of money instead of making a lot of money. As when we have implied odds, the implication is that if we make our hand, we're going to win a lot of money. Reverse implied odds is that basically the reverse of that. When we make a hand, we say 6-high flush, there's a more than reasonable chance that if the pot gets big, we're actually going to lose a big pot rather than win a big pot. I'm not going to bet into two players who don't appear to be that into folding, particularly John Maniac, on a board like that. And now, because they're not into folding very much, and because I've turned a pair, I'm now going to bet for value. For the same reason I didn't bet the flop, because I didn't believe I could get folds from 5x, 6x, things like that, is exactly the reason I feel I can bet the turn. And now I'm just going to bet the river again for some pretty thin value. I'm going to bet quite small. I'm targeting 6x here. I'm targeting hands like 10-9, 10-8, those type of things. If I get raised, I've got a really easy fold. And this is quite thin. We don't always have to go for that thinner value. But I think in the Nanostakes, going for thin value is going to be very profitable. And again, we've been raised. It's the second time now we've been raised by a misclick. There's a possibility that he or she could just be messing around with us, but it's way too early to draw those assumptions. And right now, I'm just more likely to assume that this player's had a hand a couple of times rather than they're just bad aggressive or something like that. But it's certainly something that I'm going to be a little bit more wary of for the time being. So table 2, nothing much appears to be happening on there yet. I haven't started to develop any reads on anybody. This gentleman here, Olsmick, appears to be somewhat loose and aggressive, but again, it's such a small sample size, I'm not going to draw too many conclusions from it. I want to play pots with John Maniac as often as I can, but Jack-6 suited from the small blind isn't the hand I'm going to choose to defend versus him, as much as I want to play a lot of pots with him, because I think he's played just about every pot so far. There's clearly an any-2 type of guy. But even given that, Jack-6 suited isn't going to be strong enough in the small blind, for my opinion. I am going to call here against Glenn. Normally I would 3-bet or fold this hand, but I think John's going to come along with any-2, as we said previously. 6-5 suited. Again, I'm just going to fold it. I think it's a pretty bad reverse implied odds spot again. And for once, John didn't come along, and he's made a really big c-bet on the board. But I do have a good shot, so I'm going to call just once. Not necessarily always just to try and hit, but we can sometimes win the pot when Glenn checks the turn. I don't expect him to check the turn too often when he makes such a large flop bet. And I think he's usually going to have like a pair of jacks or better. But you never know. He might just be his bluff sizing with hands like ace king, ace queen, that type of thing. And if it is, and he checks the turn, we can usually pick up a reasonable size pot. So again, Glenn's raised again here. Again, I'm just going to call because of John Maniac, and I am going to start getting a little bit wary of Glenn now too, because he appears to be somewhat loose aggressive, and again he's made a really large bet. So again, we're just going to fold. It does feel sometimes like we're getting run over, but if boards just aren't cooperating, and on top of that, people are playing aggressively, there really isn't much else we can do. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. The adjustment we make shouldn't be to just start getting stubborn and making silly bluffs, silly low equity bluffs. Yeah, it can be. I understand this can be really frustrating when we end up making quite a lot of like calls pre-flop and then never really making a hand that we can stand up to somebody who we think is quite loose aggressive with. That's going to happen a lot. That's just the way poker is sometimes. And the best play is just to sit and be patient. You need to have a lot of discipline if you're playing poker. And if you're watching these videos as a Nanostakes player, that's perhaps something you haven't learned yet. There is a chance that Glenn could be bluffing quite a lot. I mean, he's making some pretty big sizings, so if he is bluffing, he's going to make a big mistake against us quite quickly when we do finally have a hand that we can look him up with. But we can't afford to be playing sheriff to these players when we don't actually have hands, because by the time we call, fold, we end up just bleeding way too many chips. I am going to defend the ace-4 versus John Maniac because I think he's really bad, and again we've completely bricked, so we won't be continuing the hand. Well, these games they are more about making hands and then making sure we get value for them. They're not really about bluffing. They're not really about bluff catching either, unless you end up with a really solid read on someone that they are betting with a really high frequency where they just can't always have value hands. But these players are going to be more the exception than the rule at the microstakes for sure. So all we can do is just be patient, be disciplined, and I do advocate a method, and I'm sure quite a lot of you know this now, anyone that subscribes to my channel. I'm not going to raise the 9-5 because I think John Maniac's going to defend any 2, and 9-5 doesn't do that well against any 2. I do have a personal poker method of adopting a lower volume, higher stakes way of playing, which kind of flies in the face of what most people are doing these days in poker. Most people are going for high volume on sites like PokerStars, iPoker, Party Poker, any site that's got a speed poker option basically. Their strategy is high volume, low win rate equals OK hourly. My strategy is much more, and I would like to call here because of John Maniac, but the fact this pot's more than likely going to go heavily multi-way, Queen 10 off just isn't going to do the job. My strategy is much more of a play less tables at higher stakes and on softer sites to get the job done. And it's just my way of doing things. It's not for everybody. I think it certainly would suit plenty of people who currently aren't adopting it. And kind of my way of looking at it is this: if we're playing 10NL on iPoker or PokerStars or Party Poker, and we're getting 800 hands per hour at say 750 hands per hour. You know, yeah, we're doing okay there. We're making maybe $4.5–5 per hour plus a little bit of rate back. So maybe we can get up to $7 per hour. But is that really what you want to do? Do you really want to grind poker like long term for a low win rate and a lot of hands? You might think you want to now, but maybe 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18 months down the line, it's going to get real old and real boring. The swings are going to be constant. You're going to have regular 15, 20 buying down swings, probably on almost like a monthly or 2 monthly basis. When you have a win rate that's in the lowest end. I mean, and if you say 3 big blinds to 100, which is still it's a decent enough win rate in those games because they're not easy. You're going to have a lot of long break-even stretches and downswings, and it's pretty easy to just burn out when you're making your grind that kind of grind. Whereas when you adopt the method that I propose, and I'm going to pause off this just for a moment whilst I decide whether it's a 3-bet Glen or not, and I'm going to start by calling him, because at the minute we've been calling Glenn and then folding to him, so I don't mind if that dynamic is to continue when I flop a hand like top pair. I'm going to try and get to showdown against Glenn here, just to see exactly what his standards are for making these large bets. I mean, we can't fold here. With what we know about Glenn so far, we can't fold here, and I will be calling the river. He bets, he checks now. I think it's almost certain we have the best hand. And I'm going to try and get some value from Queen King, Queen 9 here. I'm going to make quite a big bet. If he raises, it's a really easy fold. And he might just have a hand like Jack 10 here and check call, or Queen 10. I think it's unlikely. I think he probably would triple barrel that. But yeah, and he does call with the worst hand. So let's see if we can just pull that hand up there and see what he showed down. This might be a little bit small. But yeah, he had 8 queen. So we haven't learned too much about him there, because he did just double barrel second pair, top pair. Fair enough with a weak kicker, but we haven't learned too much because he did just have a kind of thin value hand. What do we know about these two guys? No one appears to be getting too out of line at this table. There hasn't been an awful lot of 3-betting from what I remember. So I'm going to 3x it. If either of these guys I thought were particularly active 3-betters, I wouldn't have 3x'd it. And then now we've got a particularly nice flop. And I intend to try and put quite a lot of money in. Really, these guys might not let me. They might just fold to us. I'm going to make a large bet here because it is just an absolute plethora of draws out there that can call us. There's just so many draws that can call us here. So many worse hands. Yeah, I'm really happy just making a really large bet. Not too happy with the 7. The 7 doesn't change too much. I mean, only 6-5's got there really. But some 2 pairs have now got there. Like 8-7, 9-7. Doubt he has Queen 7 very often. So I'm going to bet again. And then the plan is to bet fold unless he gives me a price to call with my flush draw. I mean, if he makes a really large raise, like if he shoves or something, I'm just going to fold. But if he makes like a min raise or makes it like $4.20 or something, I'm going to call and just try and hit. And he has check min raised me. So we have 2 situations here. On the right, I'm just going to go all in just to try and claim isolation against FCSD. And here I'm going to call and just try and hit my hand. A queen or a heart was what I was looking to hit there. We didn't hit either, so I'm just going to be folding now. If he shoves this river, which I expect him to do nearly all of the time, I'm just going to fold because I don't think one pair is going to get the job done here at all. So there. And again, that shows something that I do all the time and that my students tend not to do when they first come to me. And that is plan ahead in the hand. Like I did there, I bet the turn. I know it's thinnish. It's not so thin we shouldn't make the bet. But the 7 fits in with some of his range there. So I was betting for value because we can still get value from draws. We can still get value from Queen X, etc. But if he'd have shoved it on my face, I wouldn't have really been getting the odds to call just with my flush draw, because I think that's all I'm going to have at that point is just a flush draw to fall back on. Or maybe 2 pair of trips might get me there, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of the time he's just going to have 10 jack there, I would imagine. But he takes that exact line of check call flop, check min raise turn. So I'm just getting good odds to try and hit my flush if he makes it a size like that. If he'd have shoved, then I wouldn't. So my plan was call a small bet, fold to a large bet. And if you make the plan before the action's on you, you're going to find yourself making way better decisions than you are if you bet thinking, oh, king queen, still got my king queen, still got my heart draw, and then you're not even anticipating the possibility that you might raise. Then you're giving yourself a problem, because you're then being forced to think about what you want to do in a situation you hadn't previously considered when you're probably a little bit annoyed and confused. Here I'm just going to check back because we can try and hit a club on the river. We've already been check min raised once by this person on a card that kind of fits into their range a little bit, like the 7 of clubs, not necessarily the 7 part, but the club part fits into their range. And I'm just going to fold here again now. I'm not really too pleased with the way the video is going in terms of how often we're having to fold, but I do believe that we are making a lot of correct folds. So I have no problem with that. in terms of if I'm making a training video where I'm trying to teach people to be disciplined and explain how important it is to be disciplined, I guess having a video where we're constantly putting frustrating spots and being forced to be disciplined is probably a good thing. Probably a good thing, because it shows that we do have to practice what we preach as coaches. We it's all well and good saying these things, but if we're not actually doing them, we're not really leading by example. And I'm now beginning to think that dangerous could be maybe a little bit bad, loose, aggressive, because he has been getting in the way quite a bit recently. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It may just be on a run of cards. Yeah, so to get back to the point of lower volume, higher stakes, I'm not going to steal Dangerous's blind here. I don't think he's going to let me do it too often. And we're not going to get back to that point yet, because hopefully we're about to play a big pot with John Maniac. That's a good flop. I am going to bet this flop. I don't expect to get too many folds, but we have enough equity that we don't really need to get too many folds. I just hope he doesn't put a big raise in, and he has. Everyone seems to want to check raise today. I wouldn't be surprised at all here if John Maniac has a really big hand, like 2 kings, 2 aces, that type of thing. So we're going to call, we're going to hope to spike, and we do, which is clearly very nice. And now we're just going to try and take John's stack. I'm just going to call here. There's no reason to raise again. When I call here, there's going to be nearly 9 euros in the pot, and only 6 behind. And I just think he's probably got aces or kings here. And he does. And there's your implied odds right there, folks. And there's another example of identifying a weak player that we have done. And there's being patient, like we talked about earlier. It's being patient, and then eventually things will work out for you. You just have to be patient in these games, because you're going to see an awful lot of things that frustrate you. People are going to make strange, odd plays, and you're going to be left sometimes just scratching your head. But you just have to remain disciplined, and eventually your moment's going to come, and you're going to drag down some big pots. I wouldn't be surprised if SCST squeezed here, because it does appear to like 3 betting a little bit. I'm not going to fold because of the size and because of the fact that our friend here, John Maniac's almost certainly going to come along. And I'm going to call if FCST folds here, and I'm going to fold if FCST calls. I think we can be way ahead of John Maniac here. Unfortunately, he has us pipped, which is a shame. But whatever, it's not a big deal. Been donked into on this board. Pretty big donk bet, just going to fold. I usually like to go after donk bets, but I prefer to go after smaller donk bets than I do larger donk bets. With smaller donk bets, I think we have a lot more fold equity when we do raise. So in larger donk bets, people tend to be doing it way more with stronger hands, in my opinion. It's not always the case, but when we don't know anybody and we only have population reads to rely on, that is my personal population read. So to try and finish the point, by the way, about the low volume, higher stakes, we already established that if we were playing 10NL on a fast fold site, getting 750 hands per hour and winning at around 4 blinds 100, we're going to be making, and let me just check the maths on this again, we're making 40 cents every 100 hands. So we're making around $3 an hour from our player, maybe another $2 an hour from rate back. So we're making between maybe $6 an hour. And if you'd be able to have a win rate of 3 blinds per 100 in speed poker games, you're probably not a terrible player. You're probably going to be capable of trebling that win rate if you played 1 pip higher on a softer site and game selected. So if we say instead of playing 10NL on instead of playing €10 an L on iPoker and doing that, you came and you played 25 an L on a softer site like Unibet, and you played just 2 tables in softer games, and then you chopped and changed tables in and out until you had 2 tables that you were happy with, which doesn't take very long at the Microstakes, to be completely honest with you. Then maybe you could have a win rate at 25 an L of easily 8 blinds 100, conceivably 10 or higher. But we'll work on 8. We'll work on the lowest part, and then when you're 2 table in, you get plenty of hands in these tables. So maybe you're going to be getting, or maybe you 3 table it for argument's sake, and we get 250 hands per hour, 200 to 250 hands per hour. So we're getting 8 big blinds per 100 at 200 hands per hour at 25 an L. And these aren't pie in the sky figures. These figures are entirely possible. So then we're getting 8 blinds per 100, which is $2 per 100 hands, is it? Yep, $2 per 100 hands. And then we're doing that over 250 hands. So all of a sudden that's going to be up to 5. Just let me finish this point in a minute when we finish value beta versus FCSD. Let's just see what he does. See what we're folding if he raises. So yeah, then we get to 250 hands per hour. That's up to $5 per hour straight away again, which is comparable with our hourly rate at the Unibet, or sorry, at the iPoker site or the PokerStars site or whatever. But we actually feel like we've made some progress. We're playing higher stakes, we enjoy poker more, it's less of a grind. So we're actually making the same money, we're making life easier for ourselves, and on top of that, we're going to have a more enjoyable grind. And we're going to feel like we're making progress, we're going to be more confident, we're going to play our A game more often, because we're not going to constantly have loads of tables buzzing at us. And quite often when you're playing these 750 hands per hour, whatever it is you're getting, I'm going to check back the ace queen here as well. I don't think he has ace king, so getting to fold ace king isn't likely, and we can get him to fold small pairs if he checks turn and river. We can get him off hands like 2s, 4s, 5s, 7s, hands like that, by just betting twice turn and river most of the time. I'm just going to call here, because I think we're going to have the best hand, not too often, but we're going to improve to the best hand a decent amount. And he's made a pretty small bet, and our line was quite weak. And now on the river, I don't think he's bluffing me that sizing. Do not think he's bluffing, so I don't particularly want to bluff catch. So yes, just to finish the point about, and I'm aware that I've laboured this point a bloody long time now because of the action we've been getting into. So our hourly rate isn't going to go up too high initially when we do this, but we're not going to be that far from then moving up to 50 an L. And then at 50 an L, you could double in our win rate. We're going to be making way better decisions. We're going to be more confident. We're going to feel better about ourselves as a player, because we're going to feel like we've finally busted out of the Nanostakes, which is a big, which can be a big shot in the arm to your self-esteem, to your confidence, etc. And before you know it, you could be playing a 50 an L. If you've got €700 and you're grinding 10 an L, or €600 you're grinding 10 an L, and then you're saying to yourself, right, well, when I finally get my bankroll to 1250, I'm going to take a shot at 25 an L. It's a long time. It's a long time getting there. If we're playing less tables at higher stakes, we can relax our bankroll management somewhat, and we can take some more aggressive shots, so we can just get to these higher limits quicker. And that's where we all want to be. I don't believe there's a 10 an L player on the planet who doesn't want to be playing 50 an L. And using my method, you can get there so much quicker. And you're way less likely to burn out. You're way less likely to just get fed up with poker, because it can be a hard grind. That is my probably not worst flops against this type of player, because I think you get almost zero folds on this type of board texture against this type of player. I'm just going to try and show our hand down. I meant very much doubt we're going to have the best hand here, but there we go. We do, somehow. So what did he limp call with there? Ace Jack. Wow. That does surprise me. Didn't think he'd be limping that strong, but he is pretty much limping every pot, so maybe he just limps everything. As you can see in this session, I've not been put to any tough decisions in big pots. I mean, we had the ace queen, which was, it could have been a tough decision had we not forward planned, but we'd forward planned on this table, and we just made the decision that we were just going to just to play the hand the way we did. We made a plan in advance, and if we do make plans in advance, we're put to way less tough decisions, because we just have a plan in place. When we get to the point where we're forced to make a decision, we've already made it, so it makes it far, far easier. And we've made the decision at a time when we're pretty calm, because we haven't actually had the pressure of the raise put on us, which makes it way more likely that we're going to come up with good decisions, because we're thinking from a calm state of mind. We're not annoyed, we're just thinking, what's going to happen if this happens? Forward planning, it really is a very, very key skill to learn, and it's one of the things I try and teach my students very early on. I'll say to them, the first session I'll just introduce them to the concept of forward planning, and then the second session I'm constantly asking people, what was your plan, what was your plan, what was your plan? And quite often it doesn't go in straight away. People just don't get that good at it, because they're that used to autopiloting. They're that used to just playing tons of tables and just clicking buttons manically and not really thinking too much about what they're going to do if X, Y, or Z happens. They're just reacting to the cards and the board. They're not being proactive. And becoming proactive is a really, really, really useful thing, and it's something you should definitely be doing. I'm just going to take a stab at this pot here. I think it's easy to get people to fold if they don't have a jack, and obviously against a jack we have a decent chance of running a jack down. Again, I'm not going to try and steal Dangerous' blind. I don't think Dangerous is the sort of guy who folds his blind too often. I'm going to double barrel here, because I think the Queen's a good card, and I think we can. A lot of John Maniac's calling range on the flop is going to fold this turn, because he doesn't have to have a jack to call. He can just have gut shots there. I mean, he can have like the 4-3, the 5-4, things like that, and obviously we're ahead of them. But the point being that he's going to have a lot of hands that he's going to fold on the turn, and the turn card does present him with a little bit of extra fold equity versus his weak pairs, because now there's more ways that he can be behind, and even though he's a bad player, he can probably understand that too. So, just if you have got this far in the video, I hope you're enjoying it. I'm just going to do a little bit of advertising at this point. I am a microstates coach. I currently have around 21, 22 people on my books, which sounds like a lot, but typically people maybe only have 2 sessions per month. So whereas I'm busy, I always have room for some more people. So if you would like to take a session with me, please do get in touch. My Skype contact details are, I'm going to call this versus Dangerous. My Skype contact details are in the comment section of YouTube in the video, or you can get in touch with me via 2+2 when I will be posting this video, on Reddit when I'll be posting this video, or on Cards Chat when I'll be posting this video. So please do get in touch with me on any of those places if you want to discuss getting some coaching from me. Dangerous, you're pretty aggressive. tempted to check raise here. Tempted to check raise, but if I had a spade in my hand, I would probably have gone for it, because I like to have some backdoor equity when I'm making those raises. I mean, sure, we have 2 overcards that we can hit and be fine with sometimes. I'm going to try a raise this time, just because we have given him a break a couple of times in the blind, so hopefully he won't be as prone to defending too wide against us if he's realising we're not like excessively stealing his blind. When we flopped a good shot, I think continuation betting seems very appropriate. Good shot, 2 overcards. I wouldn't be surprised if dangerous raises here. It strikes me as a sort of player who likes to win a lot of pots. That is not a good turn card for us, for very obvious reasons. So again, we're just going to have to concede the pot at this point to dangerous. And to be fair, this doesn't look like a particularly good table. It's table 2. And we'll state it now because the video's only going to last like another 10 minutes. But in terms of what I'm wanting to demonstrate in these videos, which is how to find bad players and how to play against bad players, which is typically what we should be doing at the Nanostakes, this table on the right isn't really particularly good for that. But whatever, we are going to run up against these tables. But had I been playing a session, one of my normal sessions, I would have swapped this table out by now for sure, because we've got a particularly aggressive player to our left, and it looks like 2 tight players. And no, we don't want that. We want players like John Maniac kicking around. We want players like T. Fogger kicking around. Players who seem like they're going to be a little bit on the loose passive side. So this table 2, I absolutely would not have continued at it. I would have been gone by now, and I would have been adding a different table into the mix, for sure. Here I'm going to be calling this, whatever, no idea how to pronounce that. No idea how to pronounce that name. But anyway, he looks reggish to me. He hasn't been playing too many pots. Doesn't look like he's been getting too out of line. But I know John's going to come along, so I think it's absolutely fine to call there, knowing that John's going to join the party. When this checks through, wow, we're getting dunked into a lot today. Big dunk bets too. Again, there's nothing we can do here other than fold, really. Yeah, it's frustrating, but what else can we do? I'm going to just bet now for some value from John. I expect Kchu, I'm going to pronounce it. No idea if that's true. Sorry if I butchered that. I just don't think he's got a hand there when he checks twice. He's almost certainly he's got 2 high cards. This is the downside of playing on a site like Unibet, when we don't have stats and we're forced to just guess how loose or tight players are. But on table 2 here, I would say dangerous. He would have got the donkey tag on 888. I don't think he's a good player, but I think he's like one of these just bad regulars who just wants to be too aggressive. So my guess is dangerous is a player who thinks he knows what he's doing, and he's bases most of his strategy around just being aggressive and just not folding very often. And that type of player, they're a pain on the arse to have on your left. You don't really need them there. If it's to my right, I mean, it's going to be a totally different ball game, but to my left, it's not ideal. And when you've got the other 3 players at the table, none of whom appear to be playing particularly loose or aggressive, so they're kind of nitty type players or taggy type players, there's really absolutely no incentive to be at this table for me, other than the fact I just want to finish the video off. So yes, I would have definitely left this right hand side table. Another shame about Unibet is I'd love to just go and take this seat here against John Maniac. And on another site, we can absolutely, when the seats open, we should absolutely be thinking about trying to get the best seat on our opponents at all times. That is frowned upon by some people. It's classed as unethical or whatever. It's complete bullshit. If you want to do it, you go ahead and you do it. We're here to make money for ourselves. We're not here to cheat anybody. Wow, another donk bet in another small 3-bet pot. We've got good shot, backdoor flush draw. Tempting to raise here. But I'm just going to fold because even he donks that big in a multi-way pot, 3-bet pot, I don't expect him to be dicking around too often. Turn card would have got us in an awful lot of trouble. So this table too, it's not been an awful lot of fun. Really hasn't been. It does feel like we've been run over on it a lot, but if you check back through the video, we just never made a hand on it. And when we never make hands, then we're in pots with lots of aggressive, well, not lots of aggressive play, we're in pots with people who are playing aggressively. It's hard. Poker's hard when you don't make hands against aggressive players. Just have to deal with it sometimes. I hope he calls here, and I hope we get to see what Dangerous is playing his ranges with like that, because he just min 3-bet before the flop, which can never be good. Which again is just another indication that Dangerous is a bad player. I'll just touch on the point again about switching seats and things. It's not cheating. Other regulars get pissed off when you do it. Probably just they're too lazy to do it themselves. Just do it. If you're at a seat where, if you're at a table where you can quickly switch seats and get the best seat on a fish, just do it. We're here to make money. We're not here to win friends and influence people. We're here to set up our business, set up our stall, whatever you want to call it, in the best possible position for us to make the most from our customers. John Maniac is definitely a customer, and we want to be on John Maniac's left whenever possible. Right, so Kochu hasn't c-bet this board. I'm just going to triple barrel here because I just don't think he can check call down unless he's in the business of slow playing absolute monsters, which is entirely possible. He might check raise here with a huge combo draw, and then I'll just fold. But usually when regulars check these boards, it's because they check folding. So let's not disappoint them. Let's just let them execute their plan of check folding. But I think we are going to pretty much wrap it up now for the video. I hope we've covered some quite good discussion. I think it's been a good video. I've made a lot of the points that I wanted to make. And unfortunately table 2 didn't work out for us. We have been a little bit run over at table 2. But as I said, that's just going to happen sometimes when we're in games with aggressive players. And we don't make hands. We are going to run up quite big losses quite quickly, and our red line's going to go down if you're bothered about red line and things like that. Those kind of things happen. Do not over adjust in these spots. Don't start spewing. The best adjustment to make is usually just get another table. That's the best adjustment to make. The second best adjustment to make, if you can't leave because there is a particularly big fish, second best adjustment to make is just keep folding, and not just start turning air into, start bluffing with air and things like that, because then you're just going to just start donating your money around the table, and it's hard to win at poker if we're spewing too often. So try not to spew too much. Yeah, but that's it for the video. If you have any questions, you know how to get in touch by now, or I hope you do. So yeah, I will see you at the tables. I will see you on the forums. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.